Lesson number 2, Herbie Hancock Diminished line. This is a line I transcribed off of the Miles Davis record, Miles Smiles, on Wayne Shorter's tune, Orbits. It's a really interesting diminished line because it combines two diminished scales together, and I think it really epitomizes the chromatic way Herbie was approaching improvising in the 60s while playing with Miles's group. So let's take a look and just sort of deconstruct the line for a second. The first two measures are made up entirely, or almost entirely, of the C half-whole diminished scale, which is now on the first beat, Herbie decides to circle the D flat, or the second note of the scale, by approaching from a half step above, then a half step below. We call this circling. So we circle the D flat, and continue up the scale, all the way up to the D flat again, and then we're going to skip the C here and go down to the B flat, and then we play down the scale in a very common diminished pattern. You may have heard Chick Corea play that, various modern improvisers who will take it, up and down in minor thirds. You can also take it back down. Right? But Herbie just decides to do one repetition of the pattern in this specific line I transcribed, which is, so again, circle the D flat, up the scale, skip the C, down the pattern. Right? In the third measure, we have an example of Herbie using a sort of chordal idea, or in other words, an idea built in perfect fourths. And if we're thinking of this line being based off the C7 scale, the notes B flat, C, and F would be representative of root, suspended fourth, and the B flat would be the flat 7 of the C7 dominant chord. And here's where it gets interesting. We go down a half step to the A. Now all those notes also belong to a diminished scale, but not to the same one we started on. Now to keep how we're thinking relative to C, or the root of the C7 chord, we can think of this scale as a C whole half diminished scale, or the opposite of what we started on. The C whole half diminished scale is so we get to the A here, and then we're going to skip the A flat, which would normally be part of the scale, go down to the G flat, continue down the scale, and then we get to the C, and we're just going to play down two chromatic half steps to hit the B flat, or the 7th of the C7 chord. So it ends up sounding like this. Right? If you want to put it with a nice voicing, a good C7 sharp 9 voicing would work well. It really does do a good job of outlining sort of all the good altered notes that you can have in a C7 altered chord. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. The free PDF link below will have the line in all 12 keys in an easily written format. If you enjoyed the lesson, please feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, send me a message. I do try to read any message I get sent and respond. And I really appreciate you watching and subscribing, and I'll see you for the next lesson.